Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax so we can chat about what is going on this weekend. Happy Friday, everybody. Friday, it is the last Friday of summer. So enjoy it. Tomorrow will be the last Saturday of summer. Enjoy it, right? I'm already having to get my hot coffee and hold my hands on it because somehow I don't know if other of you out there are like this, but when it gets to the seasonal shifts, I am super cold and like the last couple of days have been, decently, warmish, 63, 64 degrees maybe, but the nights get chilly and I have my windows open during the day and I forget to close them all. So then I get up in the morning and it's cold. Right now it's 53. So it's not terrible. But somehow, just at these seasonal shifts, my body doesn't quite want to go into all fall yet, still wants to hang on to that summer. When we get to winter, I will be the opposite. It'll be hot and I'll be like, oh, hey, open the windows. Anyway, good morning to all of you who are checking in this morning. We have quite a bit actually to talk about this for this weekend. It's a busy weekend, astrologically speaking, from today through tomorrow, and then into Sunday when we have the shift from the summer solstice time, the summer into the autumn equinox. If you're listening to us from the southern hemisphere, you're getting ready to walk into your spring equinox, opposite seasons. So you're in the beginning of the new, and we are in the closing with the harvesting time. So it's always a good time to check in and see what's going on astrologically. What are we finishing? Right there, the change of the seasons brings us a change in the quarterly energy. So especially in human design, we see quarters and how those quarters impact us in terms of the energy that they bring. So, for example, the beginning of the human design year is in mid January, well, usually about the 22nd of January. And that is not quite coinciding with the quarters that we think of in terms of the years, right? So, January to March and the calendar kind of sequence. So it always gives us an opportunity to check in because the seasons in human design always occur at the gates of love, either the gate of the love of spirit, the love of the body, the love of our fellow human beings, or the compassion and self-love, right? So there's always this time for us to adjust the experiences that might have made us forget about love at these seasonal gateways. So we're going to dive into that a little bit this morning. And as well, we're going to talk about Venus, who's also moving out of the sign she rules, Libra, and into Scorpio over the weekend. And that changes up the energy for us in our relationships and how we love one another, in our finances, and our values. So we'll take a look at what that brings, and as well, taking a look at the human design aspects. I'm going to do it a little differently today, in that I've gone through some of the major transits that we're going to talk about, but I'm also looking at them through human design. So you can see how the themes from both of these systems can kind of create a crossover. And for those of you who participated yesterday in the Introduction to the Gene Keys course that I taught, you can then take this a step deeper and take a look at the Gene Keys book and see how the energies of the season bring us into the shadow and possibly the expression of the gift and the city. So it gives you a multiple discipline ability to see what is going on in your life. And interesting, as we'll talk about the gates, maybe you'll jot them down so you can, understand how those impact you. I will end up showing my chart and my chart software so that we can see where those are in the human design template. But first, we are going to start today with the moon that has just recently slipped into the sign of Taurus. It is sitting right now at 2 degrees 52 minutes, so it's very early in its transit. And that means we slipped through the void, of course, while we were sleeping, likely, and most of us would have been sleeping, and woke up this morning with the moon in a new place. Now, I just want to hear from all of you real quickly about how your dream life has been. And tell me about that because it seems like since the lunar eclipse that occurred, the my dreams have been very vivid. And last night, oh my gosh, I did not want to wake up. It was actually this morning I had this dream that I had this ticket, and it was kind of a triangular ticket. And it had this like code embedded in it, and it was worth millions of dollars. And I was trying to get to the place where I could give the ticket over and get that money. And I was so excited because I could see how many people I could help with that money and how many, foundations could benefit. It was crazy when I woke up and realized, oh, boo, that wasn't real. But maybe it will be. I don't know. And another thing that's been happening is that I am seeing triple digit numbers over and over and over again. And even 1111, which is not triple, it's obviously four numbers, but I have been seeing those for the last, oh, I don't know, maybe week, even before the eclipse. And where I'll wake up and I open my eyes and something kind of whispers, sit up, and I sit up and look, and the clock says 444. Um, I'll walk into my kitchen and the microwave is at 555. Or my phone turns on and it's 1111. It's just been crazy that way. So I'm open to seeing what is this numbering uh, symbology bringing. And, I could take them and break them down into these individual numbers to find out, but I don't think it has something to do with that. I think it has something bigger to do. Because these are a series of numbers. I mean, how many times have I seen 1111, then 111, then 222, 333, 444, 555, all in one day this last week? It's been kind of crazy. So I don't know. I don't know what the numbers are saying, but it makes me think that there's a new opening, something new coming that I am going to be watching for in my life. But maybe, I don't know, maybe it's in the world because there's nothing specific that I'm really attached to in terms of new in my own life at this moment. So anyway, there's that. And if you guys are having dreams, let me know. TD Hawk says uh, vivid dreams. Some loved ones who have passed have been coming through, one per dream, talking with me. Ooh, I love it. Some deep info. Yes, me too. With the numbers. Yeah, and it's not like that happens to me all the time, but lately it's happening all day long. And some deep conversations, some giving me info about some things for your personal life or for the world, things that we need to watch out. Good morning, J Lo. I will rewatch. I had come home from the funeral the day before. I was so sleepy. Oh, I'm so sorry, honey. I totally get that. And TJ, good morning to you, says begging for an Indian summer. I do believe we had that like maybe the first week in September where it got to 70 degrees, at least at my house. Good morning, Jacqueline Tyler. It's good to see you out there. And Nargis, good morning. And let's see what else. Tom, good morning. I remember chatting with Tom just before we started this morning as he said equinoxy vibes, and I loved that phrase, equinoxy vibes. Good morning, Christine. I found a rooster in my dream. He was white with black specks. Rooster, look that up and see. When I want to know what the animals mean or even the numbers, I look up I do Google and say the shamanic meaning of rooster or the shamanic meaning of 555 or whatever. And then it gives me all different kinds of things to look up. But because the numbers have been running so frequently and so, like in a series, I really haven't looked them up at all this time, but we'll see what happens, right? Okay, let's start. We're going to talk about the moon in Taurus this morning. And then today we have a very powerful sun in an opposition to Neptune that I'm going to talk about. And then Saturday, tomorrow, Mercury in a square to Jupiter, and the Sun in a trine to Pluto. And then Sunday, the autumn equinox, which occurs before Venus moves into Scorpio. So we have those things to talk about. And as well, the Human Design Week shifting tomorrow into the gates of love, telling us that we're at the seasonal shift. We move into the gate of the love of the body with the sun and the love of spirit with the earth. And always so interesting to talk about those shifts. So let's jump in, shall we? So Moon in Taurus. So for today, tomorrow, and early Sunday, we have the Moon in Taurus, and then it will shift into the sign of Gemini. So the weekend has kind of got this homey, uh, grounded, practical feel to it that then moves into the more communicative. Let's go places and do things energy. So first, if we talk about the Moon in Taurus, we're talking about stability and security. This Taurus really represents that need we have, a feeling like we belong someplace, to a family, and that in that context we're secure and that we are stable. And it could be both material stability and as well emotional stability. It works with both. And then emotions are more grounded and more stable during this period of time that the moon is in Taurus. And we have a focus maybe more on practical matters and ensuring that our basic needs are met, not meant. And yet it is also a sign that takes us into sensuality and comfort. And there's a real Venus influence in Taurus because that's the planet that kind of rules this sign. And it emphasizes sensuality and beauty and pleasure. And it's a time for us then to indulge our senses and seek comfort, right? That comfortable outfit or pillow or scent that you love. And it is also then a time for us to prioritize self care, which I know we talk about that frequently. I don't know how many of you actually indulge, right? Indulge in that. So prioritize self-care activities, doing the things that enhance your physical comfort or your well-being, enjoying good food, relaxing in a comfortable environment, appreciating the beauty around you. And maybe that means getting out into nature to appreciate that beauty and that harmony. Um, Taurus is a fixed earth sign. So it has this persistence and determination energy. And the moon, with her many faces and many moods, when she's moving through Taurus, brings an approach perhaps to the changing face of emotional energy, a more calming influence, perhaps, or a more steadfastness where we're not necessarily given to all of the different ups and downs in the emotional world. So, in the practical, because Taurus is practical, it's a time for focusing perhaps on your financial security. Maybe that was the call in my dream, right? Is that take a look at how to draw in more resources. Who knows, right? Review your budgets, make a savings plan, or, at the very least, take a look at, where the money is being spent, right? Budget would, of course, mean that same thing, but looking at where it is you might be leaking some of your resources. And it isn't just money, it's also time and your energy. Right, those things are also covered here. Take a look at your home environment. Right, it's a change of the seasons, so maybe we are decorating our houses differently. Maybe we're changing. I have soaps that are flavored in my bathroom, and it's time. I usually switch the scents out from the summery scents to the more fall scents, apple and cinnamon and pumpkin in my soaps. So maybe that's something that we can do this weekend. I did tell my husband this morning that it's time to clean the windows and the screens, because yeah, during the summer when they're mowing the lawn, they don't have a grass catcher, so all of the dust and the dirt and grass just goes right at my windows, and it's time to clean those windows and those screens. So maybe there's something there because that feels aesthetically pleasing, right? To clean those windows, especially because the days are darker now and coming, soon more darkness, and it would be nice to have more light coming in the windows. So enjoy the sensual pleasures, indulge your senses, right? All of your senses, your physical senses. Um, Make steady progress on goals or set goals if you have not yet done so. Work diligently on a project. We do have to watch for a couple of challenges with Taurus moon energy, and that's about being resistant to change, right? Taurus energy can sometimes get those hooves kind of dug in. And I'm comfortable here, so why should I make any changes, right? That would be the key thinking. It's not stubbornness for the sake of being stubborn. It's like it takes a lot of energy for change. And if I'm comfortable here, why should I do that? So don't get into a position where you're too rigid in your thinking or you're too stuck in your ways or into your behavior. Be open to new ideas and approaches during the weekend. Watch out for overindulgences as well, because we're enjoying the comforts and the pleasures of all of that Taurus sensuality. But sometimes we need to remember to maintain a balance between indulgence and discipline. Right? Don't go overboard. And also watch out for complacency because there is a tendency again to feel like, I'm okay here. Why move? Right? Why change? That can lead us to a lack of motivation in doing anything different, right? So watch out for that. Um, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. Now, Sunday morning, let's see, what time is that going to be? At 3:25 a.m. Pacific time. So 6:25 a.m. for those of you on the East Coast. The moon will shift out of Taurus and into Gemini. And of course, in Gemini, we have a completely different energy now. Instead of comfort and just, being sort of uh, lazy or, indulging, we get to a more scattered energy, perhaps, or an energy that's more motivated to talk, to converse, to go out, to engage socially, to travel, to learn something new, and so forth. So the energy shifts from the more bodied or embodied moon in Taurus to the more mind orientation of the moon in Gemini. So that is something that occurs early Sunday morning. Now, um, when we first get to the energy of the week end, starting today, actually, there are these different transits, we'll call them, that are occurring, and they feel a little bit like, one's pushing us one direction while another one's pulling us in a different direction. So for some people it can feel uncomfortable, and that's why we talk about these things, right? This is why we talk about the transits that are happening, because it can be very disconcerting when you're feeling one way one minute and then the next minute you are feeling completely different. So this happens to be a week where the transits have been piled up on one another since the lunar eclipse. And so you might be feeling like these different things are popping up and pulling you in different directions, or your mind is spinning out of control in some respects. So talking about these transits at least gives us an idea of what's going on. And yeah, I'm not crazy. Yeah, this is happening. And gives you an opportunity then to choose how you want to respond to the energies that present themselves to you, right? So this is why I like to talk about these. And we haven't really had time to really talk about this because so many other things have been going on. But today, let's take a look. So Friday, today, the main transit of the day is the Sun in Virgo opposing Neptune in Pisces. So now remember, the sun is moving on a trajectory that is very much the same every year, right? He moves through the different degrees of the zodiac, and as he encounters planets such as Neptune, he goes through the series of the different aspect patterns that he can make with that planet, starting with the sun conjunct Neptune. That would have happened somewhere back when the sun was in Pisces, right? So late Pisces, and then coming into the sextile and then into the square and into the opposition, which is where we are now, right? So we're at this halfway point in the transiting Sun Neptune relationship. Okay. So it brings us some opportunities to sort of course correct, because an opposition, remember, requires balance. We have two polar opposite signs that we have to find peace within us and a balancing or harmonizing point. So With the sun in Virgo, we have a very mind orientation. We have a very practical, earthy, grounded, organized, healthy or health conscious energy. And with Neptune in Pisces, we have the real spiritual energy, the energy of unconditional love, the energy of our connection to our higher self or to spirit, if you will. And what we have then that we need to balance is that the sun bringing us clarity on one side and Neptune confusion on the other. And so the sun in Virgo is really emphasizing precision and organization and methodical action taking, attention to detail, and so forth. While Neptune is representing intuition, dreams, and the sort of nebulous things, right? The things we can't put our fingers on. And the opposition then can create tension within us between wanting clear answers and feeling lost in ambiguity. So we have to find the balance point by coming to the middle. We have to understand that, analyzing something to death isn't going to be the answer, nor is ignoring it or, just being so in a dream state that, we nod off and we don't want to take any kind of responsibility for what's going on around us. And on the other side, there are illusions versus reality. So we may find it challenging to distinguish between what is real and what is idealized or imagined. For example, waking up from the dream where things feel so real, and then you're like back in your bed going, wait, where's my golden ticket? What happened? Right? Those kinds of things. But also, it's important to stay grounded as this transit can bring sort of the illusions or our tendency to want to escape through fantasy or avoidance to the surface. So we have to work a little harder, perhaps today and into the next day or two, to stay grounded, right? To work that energy. We also have heightened sensitivity during this time. This aspect increases, especially emotional sensitivity, as we have Neptune in a water sign, water representing our emotional energy. And we might feel more empathetic to others, or we may feel more vulnerable in our relationships, and boundaries can get blurred. So we have to balance our needs and others, right? So we have to bring that into this middle ground. And yet there's also, while we have the risk of confusion and, not being clear, this opposition can also unlock some deep creative potential in each one of us, especially artistically or spiritually, or, in because Virgo is also a sign of, practical aspects of action, giving us a grounded approach to our artistry or to our creativity. But there's also the potential for deception as misunderstandings can happen or situations that come up may not be what they seem, right? On the surface, it looks one way, but if you look at it from the other perspective, it's totally different. So it might be a good time to double check information, make sure you're not being tricked into clicking on a link that's then going to take you into a problem. Avoid making major decisions maybe for the next couple of days, especially if you do not have clarity, right? If you're not really feeling sure, if you're waffling, or one minute it feels like it's a good idea to do that, and then the next minute it's like, yeah, no, I'm not sure. And then you're back to, yes, I want that, and then no, I don't want that, and blah, blah. If you're going back and forth, don't make the decision. Wait for clarity. This too shall pass, right? We'll have some clarity being restored at some point in the near future. So be careful for that. Now, I also want to take a look at this then in human design. And for this, I think I'm going to share my screen. So just a moment here while I set this up in chart presentation mode. So you guys should be seeing an empty human design chart here. And during in human design, we don't necessarily recognize the relationship qualities that astrology does. So, and really, Sun opposition Neptune is a relationship between the transiting Sun and the transiting Neptune. In human design, we don't really look at that. So we don't say, oh, hey, your sun is squaring the moon. You were born at a full moon. It doesn't work mechanically like that. It's more energetic. But it's still possible for us to see what these energies bring up for us in the human design aspect. So when we are looking at the sun right now, it is sitting at the gate 6, and the gate 6 is called impact, right? We're going to break it down here in a minute. And then Neptune right now is sitting at the gate 25, which is the gate of spirit, right? Our love of spirit is one of the gates of love, and it brings us right into the soul center. This is the G center or identity center, and this is the solar plexus or the emotional center. Now, if you happen to have your own human design chart handy, take a look and see if you carry the gate 6. If it's colored in, you're carrying the gate 6. If it's white, you have it open. And the same thing with the 25. If it's colored in, it is defined and you carry that at whatever planet's sitting there. And if it's white, you don't carry it by birth. Well, you carry the gate, but it's not defined. And when we look at it now, as a transit, now you have Neptune sitting at 25. So if you already had a planet there, you've now added some energy and have had this energy sitting here for a while, right? It's not brand new energy. And if you have the gate 6 defined, whatever planet's there is now also being impacted by the sun's transit through this gate. Okay. Now, if that's not clear, go ahead and ask me a question in the chat. Whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube, you can do that. And I'll see it when I come back, when I stop sharing my screen. So as we look at the gate 6, this represents an opportunity for conflict resolution and emotional clarity. So the gate 6 is in traditional human design, I think it was called the gate of peace. In quantum human design, we call it the gate of impact. It's the energy of impactful interactions that can bring peace or stir up conflict. And it just depends on how the emotions are managed by each of the people involved in that particular interaction. So, I see this, we see this week out there in the sun has been in the gate 6 since, let's see, the 15th. So last Sunday, this past Sunday, and is just getting ready to move out of this particular gate. And look at the things that have happened in the wider world, right? That, stirring up of conflict that then makes it difficult to maintain peace or to even agree to peace, right? So sometimes we see these challenges that are going on in the greater, wider world, but it's also happening in your personal life. Now, with the sun here, there's a focus on how your emotional energy influences others. And it's a gate of diplomacy, but also of tension. And it's where we may feel the need to assert our boundaries or to navigate emotional dynamics. So the sun already bringing that into play. And now we have the opposition energy to Neptune at the gate 25. And this is an interesting gate because the 25 is an open invitation to be in unconditional love and to find spiritual acceptance, right? To accept that your divine nature is embodied in this physical human that you are. And Neptune, the planet of dreams and illusion, amplifies the sort of transcendent qualities of this gate and making it more ethereal, maybe harder to pin down or understand its impact in our lives. And yet, this is the energy of universal love and of healing. However, it can also be elusive. Remember, we're balancing against the sun at the gate of impact and might create a longing within us to return to peace or to find spiritual connection. Or we may find ourselves idealizing experiences of love and spirit, right? We can't go too far one way or the other. It's an opposition. We've got to balance them. So how does this play out then in our human design or in, our lives in general? So this is emotional tension versus spiritual acceptance. And the sun at the gate 6 makes us feel compelled to address those emotional tensions in our lives or to navigate conflicts that we might have with other people, kind of bringing it up and out. Neptune in gate 25, on the other hand, invites us to surrender to a higher love and to spiritual understanding. So the opposition creates this friction between those two polar things, right? Dealing with the practical emotional issues and embracing a more transcendent, compassionate approach to solving conflict, right? If only the people in the Middle East were listening, or if the people in our own country here, fighting over inconsequential things, were listening, right? This can bring us impactful encounters with people versus spiritual dissolution, let's call it dissolution. So 6 is about creating impact in our relationships and our interactions with the people in our lives, while the 25 is really seeking to sort of dissolve the boundaries in terms of spirit being all pervasive and all loving, universally loving. And the challenge here is to find that balance between asserting yourself emotionally and surrendering to the flow of spiritual connections. Like, just really understanding that maybe, we could frame this in choose your battles wisely, right? Pick your battles. If it's not worth it, if then stay in the love energy and don't, stir that pot unnecessarily. This particular 2 gates in relationship to one another, though, really hold this potential for misunderstanding. Neptune's influence can blur the lines, making it difficult to see clearly, and emotional interactions under the gate 6 sun could be misinterpreted or idealized, leading to confusion. Like, we don't know what is going on, or a feeling of disconnection from spiritual love, right? We get too involved in the human conflict, and the more we get involved in the conflict, the further it takes us away from that loving feeling. Hmm. So it's a time for us to integrate spirit and emotion. On a higher level, this opposition invites us to integrate emotional clarity and spiritual love. Plain and simple, even though it's not so simple. The lessons of Gate 6, how to handle impact and conflict, can serve to help us deepen our connection to unconditional love of the Gate 25, where Neptune sits, allowing for both the practical and the spiritual approach. It's really kind of cool that way. All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, take a look and see if people had questions. Good morning, Kathy Miller. And Christine Buckingham defined sacral 59. So that means now the sun is connecting that channel 59.6. So it is really bringing up this energy of wanting to, um, have loving, supportive relationships. And in human design, we have things called circuitry. And I haven't really talked too much about that with you all, I don't think. So partially because it's so complex, right? It really is better in a class format rather than a broadcast format. But the tribal energy of this particular channel, Christine, the 59 to the 6, is all about love. There are 3 major circuits. There's the individual circuitry, there's the tribal circuitry, and the collective circuitry. And each one of those circuits is all about love, right? And the love in the tribal circuitry is of our fellow humans, our family, our friends, our tribe, our community, right? It's very more narrowed, right? The other kind of love in the collective circuitry is the love, universal love, right? The bigger love. In the individual circuitry, we're dealing with love of self and how we fit into a community of loving individuals and how we're different. But the tribal circuitry, which you have with the 59.6, is about how you are in relationships, right? How are your relationships of an emotional nature? How do they impact you? How do you impact others? And how do you find love in those relationships? So that's the bigger energy that you have there. And if you have that on an undefined solar plexus, which you can absolutely see how emotional energy can get running away with you, because you're taking in everyone's energy, right? That's the nature of an open center. An open center is a white center, and you might have, colored gates hanging off of the center. But if it's an open center, it is a place where you take in the energy of emotions, in this case, around you. You tend to amplify that energy and rebroadcast it. But it is a place of wisdom and learning. And especially for you in this case right now, taking stock of what lessons have you learned about conflict and peace in your life is within your tribe or family. And, one of the things about that is you're always trying to keep the emotional energy kind of neutral as much as possible, which means you could have developed coping strategies in your life around people pleasing or around saying what you think other people want to hear. And this gives you an opportunity to course correct that at this time. All right. I hope that makes sense for you. J Lo, how would you say 25 impacts someone if it's their IC and 51 their Chiron? So that is such a great question, J Lo, because the 25. So the 25, it's all about love, right? And people who have the gate 25 are very sensitive to love energy. And that also makes them very sensitive to when they feel like they're not being loved or when love is absent. And it makes for a place of, this very difficult emotional energy, even though it's not on the emotional center. But it can really develop into this place where I'm always looking for love, right? And I'm not finding it, or I'm doing the things that will make me feel loved with other people in my lives. And there's a sort of innocence at the gate 25 here, right? That if this is your IC, which is the nadir of an astrology chart. So it's at basically the 6 o'clock position of your chart. It is an angle, so it's a sensitive point. It is really the dividing line into the fourth house, which is the house of home and family. And is it any wonder that you find love, acceptance, and have tried your best to be the most loving presence for your family? Right? That is what is going on there. And the fact that you have then Chiron at 51 means that at times you're going through a process of seeing the opposite, the unlovingness of it all, where out of, some kind of shocking situation or something that somebody says or does or something that you feel that comes in that awakens you to where you've been out of alignment with that level of unconditional love, or where you're receiving that concept of conditional love from others in your life. So it's both a source of joy and understanding and higher spiritual, universal love, but also of wounding in your particular instance. So it's important for you to really learn these lessons, apparently. And viewing it differently through astrology, right? At this point, I know you're somewhere around age 50 ish. So you are coming likely through your Chiron return or coming up to it. I'm sorry if I've just made you older than what you really are. Because now I'm questioning myself. Was she really that old? um, so if you're coming close to this Chiron return, you're at this point where the wounding is shifting and healing and morphing and putting you in a position, JLo, of being able to help other people embody unconditional love or see the impact of awakening to this higher spiritual concept of universal love or unconditional love. So hopefully that's absolutely happening in your life. She says, yes, I'm getting there. I'm 49. I knew it was close. So thank you for not getting upset with me calling you 50, but you're coming closer and closer to this, right? This point in your life where this major shift occurs. So it's not out of the question then that this is uppermost in your mind at this point in time. All right. Good questions, guys. Thank you. I love responding like this. Let's see. Good morning, Jolie. Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel. Good morning. Um, yes, I have the Ted Andrews book, Tamara, and he is amazing. He's amazing because he also goes into the insect world, and animals that I don't normally think of or wouldn't see, but I might have a dream about. Based on the area of the world that I live in. And I think it was his book that I went to when I kept having interactions with bees. And they were landing on me or like coming, buzzing my face and then flying off. And so I went to my Ted Andrews to look that up. Okay, now let's go on. If there aren't any other questions, I'm going to go on to the next major aspect pattern that's occurring. Now, this starts tomorrow, so Saturday. Saturday, there are two major transits occurring. One is Mercury in a square to Jupiter, and the other one is the Sun in a trine to Pluto. So we have big energies in transits and they're piled on, right? We're not out of the sun opposition Neptune. At the same time, we're getting into these other transits. So when we look at Mercury in a square to Jupiter, and right now transiting Mercury is in Virgo. So we have an empowered um, Mercury, one that's very analytical, ability to critically think, who is detail oriented. And then he happens to be in a square to Jupiter in Mercury's other sign that of rulership, Gemini. And so now we have this potential in a square, which brings tension, right? This is a 90-degree angle between the two planets, and it brings up tension or challenges or obstacles that we have to come through or somewhat manage in our daily lives. And this can be about overwhelm with details. Like there is so much precision energy going on in communication or in practical thinking or in these attentions to the details of things. And that's the Mercury and Virgo aspect. But then with Jupiter and Gemini, now we have this expansive ideas and exploring multiple avenues, or I call them threads, right? Our curiosity pulling us into different avenues. And the square then can lead us to emotional, or not emotional, mental overwhelm and or an overload of information, right? TMI, too much information. And the problem with some of that is that we have this overthinking versus big picture thinking, right? Mercury and Virgo ruling sort of this idea of looking at all the pieces, right? The parts and how they all work together versus the Jupiter in Gemini, that's the big picture, right? So it's the clash between wanting every detail perfect, every detail right, and then wanting to look at the broader picture or jump from one idea to the other, like, oh, not that idea, that idea. Nope, not that idea, this one. Right. So we're scattered a bit. And it can result in frustration for us because we have difficulty in focusing. Raise your hand out there if you've been feeling sort of ADD, ADHD anyway with Jupiter and Gemini, right? The next shiny object or the next thing that comes up. Um, kind of manifesting generator feeling where there's all of these things that are happening in your life that you have to handle and all the details and things like that. And there can also be exaggeration and miscommunication here because Jupiter's expansive nature can lead to overpromising, overcommitting to our time or our resources, or exaggerating facts. While Mercury's critical eye in Virgo can miss the fine details in this kind of setup. Right, we miss the facts. The we miss the forest for the trees, right? Because we're seeing all of these details. So it's really going to be important during this weekend to maybe let your brain rest. Take a mental health day. Stay grounded, avoid making hasty decisions. Again, we're back to not a good time when your mind is overloaded and also unclear from the sun opposing Neptune, not to make big decisions, right? Step back from that. There is learning and intellectual expansion potential here because that's the positive note of the square is that it forces us really uh, or creates a path where we want to expand our information, our knowledge about something. And so there's potential for intellectual growth if we balance. There's the key. If we balance the detailed orientation of the sun, or excuse me, of Mercury in Virgo, with the broader perspectives of Jupiter in Gemini. And you also have to know that while all of this mental energy is heightened, that there is restlessness, right? That we may feel scattered, that we can get frustrated in our ability to, or lack of ability to focus on anything for any length of time. So it's a good time to stay organized. Maybe prioritize your tasks to avoid anything like spreading yourself way too thin, trying to do too much Um, take and be kind to yourself because your mind is really revved up during a square like this, because Jupiter magnifies and amplifies things, right? Oh, yes. All right. So now I'm going to go back to presentation mode and share my screen, because now I want to take a look at this through human design. And I'm going to take this out and take this out. Oh, one more. Take this out. Oh, we don't want to go out, I see. Hmm, funny. Okay. Stay defined if you want to, but we're not looking there because we're looking at Mercury right now up here in the Ajna at the gate 47. And this is called the gate of mindset. So we have Mercury that literally rules the mind and our thinking processes. And it is in a gate in your human design that is representing your mindset. And it's the energy here really of processing and finding clarity through mental pressure. It's where the mind works to get answers or to make sense of confusion. The opposite gate here is the gate of confusion. So, we're, bringing in information from outside of us, outside of the physical realm, and that comes in, it meets up with confusion here, and we try to attempt ordering that confusion with the gate mindset here, which doesn't always work well because, if you're in a negative mindset, then anything coming in is being filtered through that negative mindset. So here's where we really have to try to extract meaning in more abstract ways. And we're maybe challenged in some way to find meaning. This is a gate that I often talk about in terms of the aha moment or epiphany energy, right? Revelation energy. So the 47 is helping us to find through waiting for that revelation or that thought or that idea to manifest so that we have clarity about what to do next. And it is also an energy that helps us work through mental blocks. It and helps us to then synthesize ideas and gain insights, and then to ultimately shift our perspective, which helps us find clarity in challenging situations. So that's where Mercury is. Now, Jupiter is at the gate 45, which is a gate here on the throat center. It is called the gate of distribution in human design or in quantum human design. And it represents leadership energy and the ability to control resources. Maybe it's money, maybe it's time, but also information. And it's the energy of stewardship, deciding how and when to share the knowledge, the wealth, or the resources that you have. So with Jupiter here, magnifying I want to get into I want to amplify the sharing of information. I want to amplify learning. We really have to pay attention to where are we easily going to be pulled out of managing our energy wisely, sustainably, and get pulled into overblowing it, overdoing it, etc. But it is a gate that emphasizes generosity and leadership and helps guide others, where we can help others. We can help guide others through wisdom and understanding. So the square between Mercury and Jupiter, in this case, is playing out in human design from the tension between mental clarity and leadership roles. Like it creates this tension between our mental processes and the role of distributing resources. So if we don't know exactly what's the right thing to spend our money on or our time on, it is a good time not to spend it at all, right? Hold yourself back a little bit, right? So that um, because what you may be feeling is pressure, the pressure to act as a leader or to spend that money or to use those resources, but there's this mental fog that's there because there's just too much of this overwhelming energy. And that could cause us to struggle with overthinking or delay, our ability to make good decisions. So in that case, don't make big decisions. All right. Now, the sun in on Sunday or Saturday, excuse me, is in a trine with Pluto. And this is a time, remember, Pluto now is back in Capricorn. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I don't confuse you. I'm needing to hurry a bit here now because I've talked too much. So the sun in the trine to Pluto brings about, oh, I started to say Pluto's back at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So we're finishing up a cycle that began back in 2007, 2008. And we talked about this, I think, last week about how, for the next now maybe 10 weeks, 9 weeks, until November, Pluto is sitting at this 29th degree of Capricorn. And now with the sun in a trine to this is about bringing up the potential for transformation in our lives and focusing our energy in very practical ways. Pluto acts as well, first of all, the sun is still in Virgo and at the 29th, 28th, 29th degree at this point. And Pluto is also at the 29th degree. So the emphasis is on practical, grounded efforts toward wellness, health, um, your path of service, what you offer, in Capricorn, what you're building, what can stand the test of time, all of these things. So we're in a process of maybe refining things in our lives. And there's also psychological insight here. A trine is a smooth flow of information from between, in this case, Sun in Virgo and Pluto in Capricorn. They're both earth signs, they get along well. So we have maybe this ability at this point to kind of look beneath the surface of things that are going on in our lives and the situations that we are a part of and gaining insight. Maybe into our hidden motivations or other people's hidden motivations. And it can help us navigate through the complex dynamics that we have in our interpersonal relationships without our need to sacrifice or create conflict, even though that's still potential with the sun in the gate 6, at least through today. It is also a good time for detoxing and releasing. So, clearing out what no longer serves you, maybe both physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and purging, right? Unhealthy habits or thought patterns or relationships that have outlived their purpose. That's a great thing to do with Sun trine Pluto. And empowering yourself through attention to detail, but without getting lost in those details. Tall order, I think, right? Good morning, Terry Strauss. It's good to see you. And I see Leilani out there. It is so good to have you with us. I was thinking about you the other day as some friends just came back from vacation in Hawaii. And I was thinking, one of these days, I've got to get over there. Okay, let's now transition in the last 8 minutes that I have here this morning with you to talk about Venus moving into Scorpio. And no, I'm going to do that on Monday because I really want to kind of talk about the sun's moving into the sign of Libra. That is what characterizes the autumnal equinox, and that is 0 degrees of Libra. And it means that we are in a shift of seasons. And I think we see that so beautifully in human design. So I really want to take some time and talk about that. So, to make the most of the Libran season that we're going into, we need to embrace the themes that Libra brings up, which are balance and harmony, social connection, and strengthening the bonds in our relationships, because it really brings a focus on relationships, the agreements that we make between one another, the contracts that we sign, either with business people or within, our own families. And it's a time for us to engage in conversations and activities that bring us closer together, right? That see a peaceful coming together and resolving conflicts that may exist between us and others. Maybe using Libra's diplomatic energy to resolve lingering conflicts. I'm praying that this is something that can be put to good use in our outer world as well. It is a time to seek balance in your life, right? That is the biggest thing. It's the picture of the scales, right? And the scales, are like this sometimes, right? You can't see me all in that picture. Sometimes they're out of balance. And yet, even when they come into balance, there's still some, movement going on because it's not static. Balance and harmony is not static. We have to constantly, do things, adjust things to keep balance and harmony. And that's what happens in this Libra. Season, which means because of the nature of the houses, we may have to balance the I am with the we are, right? We may need to seek a sort of work life balance, right? A balance between our professional lives and our personal lives or our family lives, body, mind, spirit, wellness, energy, right? This is a huge thing here. Libra really appreciates the physical and mental well being exercises like yoga or meditation or some form of regular exercise practice that balances out. The heavy emphasis that we have on the mental world. And Libra is an air sign, so we still have air emphasis here. Air meaning information and conversation and thinking processes. So maybe it's time to get into nature, right? Get outside, enjoy the changing season, the colors on the leaves, and how the plants and animals change with the season. Maybe it's time for you to cultivate a sense of diplomacy in your own life, right? How is it that you communicate with people? Is it effective communication, or do you sometimes, just like, what is that called? Trip over your tongue, right? That kind of thing. Aim to understand other people's perspectives during this time and find common ground, right? Find something that you can work with. Um, Collaborate with others. It's a great season for collaboration, cooperation, and co-creation, the 3 C's that I always associate with Libran energy. And it's a time maybe for personal growth. What can you do for yourself that really nurtures a sense of growth and expansion through learning or creativity? Time for me to get a new diamond painting, maybe. And at this time in human design, this is where it's really striking what happens at the seasons, in that the sun and the earth come to gates of love in the identity center, the G center, right? That diamond that in your chart is either white if it's open and or undefined, or colored in if it is defined. So either way you look at it right now, those gates of love are going to be triggered. And in human design, the gate 46 is called the gate of the love of the body in more traditional human design, or embodiment in quantum human design. And we also think of the 46 as serendipity, right? Where we are in the right place at the right time for the right opportunity, the right connection, the right gift, the right opportunity. Think of it as in, somehow kismet brings you to the right place. And this gate really emphasizes the joy of being in the physical realm, right? Having your feet on the ground, being in the physical body and experiencing life through your senses, the physical senses, taste, smell, touch, right? Those things that sight, hearing, right? People who have this gate in their natal charts often have a deep connection with their bodies and a strong appreciation for the physical realm. And right now, all of us have this opportunity to bring this loving energy of being in the physical world, honoring our physical existence and its the capabilities. Have How awesome is your body that you can move your fingers and your toes, and they can reach out and grab, or they can hug, or they can taste, and all of those physical qualities to honor within our existence here on the planet. And it really is an energy that encourages us to love our bodies and to love our earth and to love being in the present moment. So the sun, the opportunity is for us to bring more and more of that into the next season, right? The season of the fall in this case, which is a time where we're harvesting, where we're bringing things to a conclusion, perhaps, where we're approaching the time of going into the inner realms. Now, the Earth in the gate 25, sitting there with Neptune, right? We talked about Neptune already at the gate of the love of spirit. And gate 25 is also located in the identity center, or G center, making it a gate that sometimes we call this gate of innocence, but it's really love of spirit, and it represents the pure, unconditional love for all of existence and a deep connection then to the spiritual aspects of life. And it emphasizes the importance of us maintaining our connection to our higher self and to that sense of innocence and openness of a child. Right? The child's awareness that there's so much more going on here on this planet, that everything is a source of love, and allowing us to connect with the divine and experience life with a sense of wonder and awe and just that love, right, that feeling that comes up from deep within us that generates joy and joyful expression and leads to happiness, right, that inner expression. So when we have the sun in gate 46 and the earth in 25, we have this unique opportunity, timing wise, to harmonize the physical and the spiritual aspects of life, of our lives, right? The combination encourages us then to embrace physicality, being in the body, appreciating and taking care of our bodies, recognizing it as the vessel for your spirit. Right. And then to cultivate spirituality as maintaining that sense of innocence and love and purity and openness, connecting with the spiritual dimension of existence, and then finding balance between the two, physical and spiritual, to create that sort of fulfilling life that we are all after. So, this week of, let's see, this is from September 21st, tomorrow, through the 26th, right? And it's so important to connect with love at this time because those next weeks following all take us into the gates of the spleen center, which can double as gates of fear and they become shadow energies. So we'll be talking about those after this period of time. So gather all the love, have all of the love you can feel for yourself and for others, for the world, the collective, and embody those qualities as, a physical human being, and remember that for the next several weeks become a little more interesting, let's say. Okay, that is it for me today. On Monday, we will go into the Venus Scorpio connection and we'll talk more about that. She moves into Scorpio later Sunday evening, so it's not like we're going to miss a whole lot talking about her on Monday. All right, guys, thank you so much. I need to go fast this morning. I love you all. Have a great weekend. See you Monday.